There's a strange pattern I noticed after years of watching wealthy people. The man driving the newest luxury car is usually drowning in debt. But the actual millionaires, the people quietly compounding wealth for decades, they drive old sedans, they wear plain clothes, they deliberately look average, and it is not because they are cheap, it is because visible wealth comes with a hidden tax almost nobody talks about. The moment people think you have money, your entire reality changes. Prices go up, expectations go up, pressure goes up. Today, we break down the dark psychology of stealth wealth and the dangerous reason why the truly rich engineer their lives to look completely ordinary. Let's break this down. The first hidden rule of wealth is understanding the invisible tax of looking rich. Most people think wealth begins the moment you can finally afford luxury. The expensive car, the giant house, the designer clothes. Society trains you to believe these things are the reward for financial success. But this is where the trap begins. Because the moment people believe you have money, your reality changes completely. Let's break this down. Imagine two different men walking into the exact same restaurant. The first arrives in a 10-year-old Toyota wearing a plain black sweater. The second pulls up in a brand new Mercedes wearing a Rolex and designer shoes. Who do you think gets quoted a higher price by the contractor later that week? Who do you think gets pressured into paying the dinner bill? Who do you think suddenly becomes the target for investment opportunities, loan requests, and can I borrow some money conversations? Visible wealth changes how people behave around you. And most people never realize this because the tax is invisible. The contractor does not openly say he is charging you more because your watch costs $15,000. Your friends do not openly admit they now expect you to pay because you posted vacation photos from Dubai. Your family members do not consciously think he has money now, so he should help. But human psychology quietly shifts the moment your financial status becomes visible. This is the part nobody talks about. The truly wealthy understand that attention creates friction. The louder your lifestyle becomes, the more expensive your life becomes. Not just financially, emotionally, because once people perceive you as wealthy, you stop being treated like a normal person. You become a resource, a walking opportunity, a financial safety net for other people's problems, and the pressure compounds slowly. At first, it feels harmless. You upgrade the car, you buy the luxury apartment, you start dressing differently. Social media rewards you with validation. People compliment your success. You feel like you finally made it. But then the hidden costs appear. Your monthly burn rate quietly doubles. Your social circle changes. You start attracting people who love your lifestyle more than your character. You begin making financial decisions based on maintaining an image instead of protecting your freedom. And now the system owns you because once your lifestyle becomes expensive enough, you lose the ability to say no. You cannot quit the corporate job you hate because the Porsche payment still arrives every month. You cannot take entrepreneurial risks because the giant mortgage is waiting. You cannot slow down because your entire identity now depends on appearing successful to people you do not even like. This is why so many high income professionals secretly feel trapped. From the outside, their lives look perfect: luxury car, beautiful house, expensive vacations, but internally they are exhausted because they are no longer building wealth. They are maintaining an illusion. Warren Buffett understood this decades ago. He still lives in the same Omaha house he bought in 1958, not because he lacks money, but because truly wealthy people understand something the middle class never learns. Every visible status symbol creates invisible obligations, and every invisible obligation slowly steals your freedom. The goal was never to look rich. The goal was to become untouchable. Real wealth is not the Rolex. Real wealth is waking up on a Tuesday morning without anxiety. Real wealth is having enough leverage to ignore toxic people, bad opportunities, and meaningless status games. And the people who achieve that level of freedom almost always look completely ordinary because the truly rich are not trying to impress the room. They are trying to quietly escape it. Most people spend their entire lives confusing status with wealth, and the system quietly encourages this confusion because status is incredibly profitable. Think about modern advertising for a moment. Luxury brands almost never sell you the actual product. They sell you a social identity. The commercial is never really about the watch, the car, or the designer jacket. It is about the feeling of superiority attached to owning it. They are selling you the illusion that visible success equals freedom. But in reality, the opposite is usually true. Let's break this down. Look at the average high income executive living in a major North American city. On paper, this person appears extremely successful. They make $200,000 a year. They drive a leased German car. They live in a luxury condo downtown. Their Instagram looks perfect. But behind the scenes, their financial reality is completely different. The car payment is massive. The mortgage is massive. The private school tuition is massive. The lifestyle itself becomes a machine that constantly consumes cash. And now something dangerous happens. Their income is no longer creating freedom. Their income is feeding obligations. This is where most people get trapped. The higher their salary rises, the more aggressively they inflate their lifestyle. They buy bigger homes, more expensive clothes, more status symbols. And each new purchase quietly removes another layer of flexibility from their life. Eventually, they become prisoners of their own image. They cannot quit the stressful corporate job because the burn rate is too high. They cannot take a 6-month break because the bills never stop. They cannot start their own business because failure would destroy the entire lifestyle they built to impress strangers. From the outside, they look wealthy. Internally, they are terrified. And this is the brutal irony nobody talks about. The people who look the richest are often the least financially free because status is a zero-sum game. The moment you enter the status race, there is no finish line. There is always someone with a bigger house, a newer car, or a more exclusive vacation. And social media turned this into a global psychological prison. Now, millions of people are financing lifestyles they cannot actually afford just to maintain the appearance of success online. But real wealth operates very differently. Real wealth is quiet. Real wealth is optionality. It is the ability to say no. The truly wealthy person is not the one driving the loudest car. It is the person who can walk away from a toxic meeting without financial panic. It is the person who controls their own calendar. It is the person who does not need external validation to feel successful. Warren Buffett understood this at a very deep level. For decades, he deliberately looked ordinary. Same house, same simple lifestyle, same modest routines, and this gave him something far more valuable than status. It gave him independence. Because once your personal overhead stays low, your leverage increases dramatically. You can take risks. You can invest long term. You can ignore social pressure. You can survive economic downturns without panic. You become anti-fragile. This is why poor people often buy luxury first, while wealthy people buy assets first. One group is optimizing for appearances. The other is optimizing for control. And those are completely different games. The modern world constantly tells you to upgrade your lifestyle the moment you earn more money. But the people who actually build lasting wealth often do the exact opposite. They quietly increase assets while keeping their visible lifestyle surprisingly average because they understand one of the most important financial truths in existence. Every dollar spent trying to look rich is a dollar that can no longer buy your freedom. Poor people buy status, wealthy people buy time, and those two paths eventually lead to completely different lives. The third hidden rule of wealth is understanding why the truly rich stay underestimated. Most people desperately want to look important. They want recognition, attention, validation. They want the room to know they are successful. But the wealthiest people often move in the exact opposite direction. They deliberately reduce visibility. And it is not because they are insecure, it is because attention attracts friction. Let's break this down. Imagine two investors walking into a small local coffee shop. The first arrives wearing designer brands, an expensive watch, and loudly talking about business deals on the phone. Everyone immediately notices him. The second walks in quietly wearing a plain sweater and old sneakers. No logos, no performance, no need to impress anyone. Now ask yourself something important. Which person has more freedom? The loud person may look powerful, but in reality, they are constantly managing perception. They are trapped maintaining an image. The quiet person moves invisibly, and invisibility is a massive advantage in life. This is the part most people never understand. Being underestimated lowers resistance. People become more honest around you. Competitors ignore you. You attract fewer fake relationships. You avoid unnecessary jealousy and social pressure. And most importantly, you gain the ability to observe reality without constantly performing for an audience. The modern world is completely addicted to performance. Social media transformed daily life into a nonstop branding exercise. Everyone is advertising themselves, broadcasting success, selling the image of a perfect lifestyle. But the truly wealthy often understand a dangerous psychological truth. The more public your identity becomes, the less control you actually have over your life, because now your reputation becomes a prison. You cannot fail publicly. You cannot experiment quietly. You cannot disappear for 6 months to build something meaningful because the audience expects constant updates. You become emotionally dependent on external validation, and dependence destroys freedom. This is why old money behaves differently than new money. New money often feels an overwhelming urge to display success immediately. Luxury cars, giant logos, public spending, social proof. Old money hides, quiet neighborhoods, private investments, simple clothing, low visibility, because wealth that survives multiple generations learns to avoid attention the same way experienced investors avoid unnecessary risk. Warren Buffett mastered this principle decades ago. Think about how unusual his public image actually is. One of the richest people on earth lives in the same Omaha house he purchased in the 1950s. He drinks Coca-Cola, eats simple food, drives ordinary cars. Most billionaires could buy entire islands without noticing the cost. Yet many of them deliberately engineer their lives to appear average. Why? Because the power of being underestimated cannot be measured on a balance sheet. When people underestimate you, they lower their guard. They reveal information. They stop competing with you. They assume you are harmless. And meanwhile, your assets continue compounding quietly in the background. The loudest people in society are often fighting desperately for status because they need external confirmation of their value. But the truly wealthy usually no longer need the room's approval. They already know who they are, and that changes everything. Real wealth does not need to announce itself because freedom is silent, and the people who are genuinely free rarely feel the need to prove it to strangers. The fourth hidden rule of wealth is understanding that luxury can quietly become a prison. Most people imagine financial success as a life filled with expensive upgrades. The bigger house, the exotic car, the luxury vacations, the private memberships, and for a brief moment, these things feel exciting. You finally feel like your hard work is paying off. Society rewards you with attention. People treat you differently. You feel important. But underneath the surface, something dangerous begins happening. Every upgrade increases your dependency on the system. Let's break this down. Imagine a corporate executive earning $300,000 a year. From the outside, this person looks incredibly successful. The luxury SUV sits in the driveway. The giant suburban home looks perfect. The social media photos show expensive restaurants and international vacations. But behind the scenes, their financial structure is fragile. The mortgage is enormous. The car payments are endless. The property taxes keep rising. The private school tuition quietly drains cash every month. And now this person has a problem. They no longer own their lifestyle owns them. This is where most people get trapped because the higher the burn rate becomes, the smaller your freedom becomes. Now, every career decision is controlled by fear. You cannot leave the stressful job because the monthly obligations are too high. You cannot take a risk on your own business because failure would collapse the entire structure. You cannot slow down because too many people now depend on your income continuing forever. And eventually, your expensive lifestyle becomes a beautifully decorated cage. This is why so many highly paid professionals secretly feel exhausted all the time. They are not working to build wealth anymore. They are working to maintain overhead. Every luxury payment becomes another invisible chain connecting them to a system they no longer enjoy. And the truly dangerous part is that society celebrates this trap. People look at the giant house and assume success. They look at the luxury car and assume freedom. But often the exact opposite is true. The person driving the older Honda with low expenses may actually possess dramatically more control over their life because freedom is not measured by what you can buy. Freedom is measured by what you can walk away from. This is why wealthy builders aggressively protect optionality. Optionality means flexibility, the ability to pivot, the ability to quit, the ability to disappear for 6 months and build something meaningful without financial panic. And optionality only exists when your burn rate stays under control. Warren Buffett understood this deeply. For decades, he avoided unnecessary lifestyle inflation despite becoming one of the wealthiest people on earth. Not because he lacked ambition, but because he understood something most people never realize. Luxury consumes psychological energy. The more possessions you accumulate, the more maintenance, stress, attention, and financial pressure enters your life. And eventually your calendar stops belonging to you. This is the hidden cost of status. You begin sacrificing your time to maintain objects that were originally purchased to symbolize freedom. That is the irony. The symbols of success often destroy the very independence people were chasing in the first place. Meanwhile, the truly wealthy quietly optimize for a completely different goal: control over their own time, control over their own attention, control over their own decisions. They understand that the highest dividend money can ever produce is not admiration, it is autonomy. The ability to wake up on a random Tuesday morning and decide exactly how your life unfolds. That is real wealth. And most people spend decades accidentally trading it away for applause from strangers. The fifth and final hidden rule of wealth is understanding what rich people are actually buying. Because most people completely misunderstand the purpose of money. They think money exists to purchase comfort, attention, and luxury, but the truly wealthy use money very differently. They use money to buy independence. Let's break this down. The average person receives a raise and immediately upgrades their lifestyle. Better apartment, better car, more expensive restaurants, more visible success. And at first it feels logical. They worked hard. They want proof that they are progressing in life. But wealthy people often do something completely different. Instead of aggressively increasing visible consumption, they quietly increase ownership. They buy assets, they buy equity, they buy businesses, they buy systems that continue generating value long after the original work is finished. This is the fundamental difference between appearing rich and becoming wealthy. One person uses money to consume, the other uses money to build leverage, and leverage changes everything. Because once your income is no longer directly connected to your physical time, your entire relationship with life changes. You stop waking up in survival mode. You stop panicking every Sunday night before work. You stop depending on external approval to feel secure. This is where most people get trapped. They spend decades optimizing for salary instead of ownership. They become highly paid employees with extremely expensive lifestyles, but they never build the machine that actually sets them free. Meanwhile, the quiet investor, the business owner, the creator, or the developer building scalable systems quietly compounds wealth in the background. And eventually, the gap becomes massive because ownership scales, status does not. A luxury car loses value every year. A strong business can produce cash flow for decades. Designer clothes disappear, equity compounds, attention fades, assets continue working. This is why wealthy people often look surprisingly boring from the outside because their money is not sitting in the driveway. It is sitting inside investments, infrastructure, media, businesses, and long term systems. Their wealth is invisible because the machine itself is invisible. And this is one of the hardest concepts for modern society to understand. We live in a world designed around appearances. People want immediate proof of success, they want validation now. But real wealth is delayed, quiet, patient, and often completely unnoticeable for years. Warren Buffett became one of the richest people alive, not through constant lifestyle upgrades, but through relentless long term compounding. That compounding did not look exciting day to day, it looked boring, simple, repetitive. And that is exactly why most people never achieve it. Because the modern brain is addicted to stimulation. Luxury provides instant dopamine. Status provides instant validation. But ownership requires patience, discipline, silence, and the willingness to look average while your assets quietly grow in the background. This is why the wealthy often appear strangely calm, because their lives are no longer built on external approval. Their financial foundation exists independently of trends, opinions, and social performance. They are not trying to impress the room anymore. They are trying to reduce dependency on it. And eventually, that changes your entire psychology because the ultimate purpose of wealth was never consumption. It was freedom. Freedom from panic, freedom from toxic environments, freedom from forced obedience, freedom from spending your entire life doing work you secretly hate. That is what the truly wealthy are actually buying. Not status, not applause, not attention, time. And once you understand that, you stop asking how rich someone looks and you start asking how free they really are. Now, here's the dangerous part. Most people will listen to this entire conversation, completely agree with it emotionally, and then go right back to their old behavior tomorrow morning. They will still finance things they do not need. They will still chase status from strangers they do not even respect. They will still mistake visible consumption for actual wealth. This is the part nobody talks about. The system does not only profit from your labor, it profits from your insecurity. Modern society is engineered to keep you performing wealth instead of building it. Because performance is profitable. Performance keeps people trapped in subscriptions, car payments, luxury upgrades, and endless comparison loops. Real wealth does the opposite. Real wealth quietly removes dependency. It lowers your stress. It increases your options. It gives you the ability to walk away. And that is why the truly wealthy often appear so ordinary from the outside, because once you understand the game deeply enough, impressing strangers starts feeling completely irrational. You stop asking, how do I look successful? And you start asking, how do I become impossible to control? That shift changes everything because freedom compounds quietly, just like debt, just like reputation, just like leverage. And every decision you make today is either increasing your future freedom or destroying it. The car you finance, the apartment you cannot really afford, the lifestyle inflation you normalize. It all has a hidden cost, not just financially, psychologically. Every unnecessary expense increases your dependency on systems you may secretly hate. Meanwhile, the person building ownership quietly gains more leverage every year, more options, more flexibility, more control over their mornings, and eventually the gap becomes irreversible. One person spends their life looking rich, the other spends their life becoming free. This is your reality. So here's the question. What is one expensive thing people buy almost entirely to impress others? Go to the comments right now and write it down. I read every single comment because this channel is not built for consumers. It is built for builders. If this video changed the way you think about money, hit the like button so the algorithm pushes it to more people trapped in the status game. Subscribe to the channel to keep building your financial operating system every single week. And remember, the people screaming the loudest about money are usually the ones who have the least of it. The truly wealthy rarely need to announce anything at all.